Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cohen back here again today with another video, and today we're doing another episode of NBA Hot Takes. I took to Twitter and asked y'all to give me your hottest takes at the moment, and you gave me some really good ones, everything from playoff predictions to award predictions to takes about what team should blow it up, and everything in between. So make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos, and let's go ahead and get right into the takes. This first one comes from Prez, who says that the top three teams in the Western Conference right now will all lose in the first round. Obviously, this would be insane. I don't think this has ever happened in the NBA. I didn't specifically research it, but the probability of it just seems so unlikely that I'm going to assume it's never happened. So why would it happen this year? I mean, for one, there's kind of an unprecedented level of parity in that Western Conference at the moment. I mean, there are so many teams still fighting for a play-in spot in the Eastern Conference. You've got a few teams that are going to break 50 wins in the West. Who knows how many will break it? Maybe one or even two at the most. It's really close out there over in the West. So let's take a look at the possibility of this actually happening. Obviously, right now we don't know who's going to be specifically playing, but I'm just going to assume the standings stay the way that they are. So right now we have the 1-seeded Nuggets facing off against the 8-seeded Dallas Mavericks. To me, I don't see any way that Dallas takes this series. I mean, maybe Luke and Kyrie go absolutely ridiculous and Jokic just completely hits a wall all of a sudden, but there's no answer for Jokic on that Dallas roster. I trust the role players more on Denver than I do on Dallas. They've also got Jamal Murray, who's going to torch that backcourt. There's no answer from Michael Porter Jr. in Dallas either. And sure, the backcourt of Dallas is going to do an amazing job. Kyrie and Luka, if they're healthy, are probably going to put up big numbers, but I just don't think they have enough help to stop what the Nuggets can do to them. So to me, Denver is going to win that series pretty handily. Then we take a look at the Kings versus the Timberwolves, which would be the 2-7 matchup. I also think the Kings win this one pretty handedly. Anthony Edwards has been great all season. I think he's sneakily kind of pushed his way to be in all NBA conversations, but they're not going to take down what is statistically the greatest offense of all time at the moment in the Sacramento Kings. I just don't think they have enough firepower or enough defense to stop them or keep up with them. And then with the 3-6 matchup, I think this is the most likely upset with the Grizzlies, who have been in turmoil, facing off against the reigning champion Golden State Warriors. They can't win on the road, but they still are the Golden State Warriors. They've got Steph, Clay, Draymond. They've been here, done this before. They could potentially find a way, and the Grizzlies, like I said, they've been dealing with the John Morant situation. Brandon Clark is out for the season. Steven Adams, we don't know when he's going to return from injury. There's a lot going on over there, so I do think that one's possible, but the other two, I would be stunned if they happened, so I don't really agree with this take whatsoever. Next up, we got one from Jake, who says that the Nets can still make a far playoff run, and that they won both the KD trade and the Kyrie trade. Mikal Bridges right now is KD with elite defense, basically shooting 50-50-90. Obviously, there's a lot to dissect in this take, but we'll begin with the first half. The Nets, it depends what you mean by a far playoff run. I think they could maybe win a first round series if they got a favorable matchup and ended up as, say, like the 4 seed by the end of the regular season. They go on some crazy run at the end here. But beyond that, I think they're a first round exit. Right now, they rely a lot on role players, and Mikal has been great, but he's never been the number one option in a playoff series. He would be going up against like Donovan Mitchell or Giannis Antetokounmpo or Joel Embiid or Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Like, these are guys that have been here and done this before on massive stages. He's been to a finals, but at that point, he was like the 4th option for the Phoenix Suns. I just don't see him, playing at quite this level in his first playoff series. I still think he's a rising star and is really, really good, but I just don't think he's up to that superstar level yet where he can carry a team through the playoffs. If the role players of the Nets have a bad night, they're going to get absolutely destroyed. And I just think between the 3 powerhouses at the top, as well as the Cavaliers and the Knicks, the Nets just aren't up to the tier of those squads at the moment. So I do believe they probably are going to lose in the first round. But when we're talking about the KD and Kyrie trade, when they made the deals, said they were winners. I like the hauls that they got for both of those players back. I think they're really well set up, better than people realize for the foreseeable future. And Mikal has been amazing. I don't know if I'd call him KD with elite defense, but he has been really, really good with the expanded opportunities that Brooklyn has given him. And I do believe he can be an all-star potentially next season if the Nets have enough success. So shout out to him and shout out to Brooklyn for doing a good job, but I don't think that this is their year to make a deep playoff run. Following that up, we have Devin, who says that the bottom teams in the NBA need to be relegated like they do in soccer. So if you're unfamiliar with the way that soccer works, or at least my understanding of it, I'm not a big soccer guy, or football, I guess some people got mad when I called it soccer in another video. Regardless, The way it works, I believe, is if you're in like the top league and your team finishes at the bottom of the standings, you can be relegated, which means that they move you to the league below yours and promote a team from that league to take your spot. So in the NBA, I guess the way it would work is like the Houston Rockets were the worst team in the league the past couple of seasons. They would have been sent down to the G League, I guess, while a G League team came up and took their spot. You can probably already see the problem with that. That G League team might win a game on the season, and even that might be kind of pushing it. Meanwhile, the Rockets would go undefeated in the G League and win every game by like 30, 50 points. It wouldn't even be close. And then there's also the issue of who gets the top pick. Do the Rockets still get it? But does that then top player have to play in the G League for a season? That seems unfair, as well as to the young players on that roster, because a lot of rosters just are meant for tanking in general with the current setup of the NBA. It's how a lot of small market teams are forced to get better. Then if they have like big name free agents, they're just going to leave, and it's going to be hard for that team to attract any players. So sure, they can try and win, but then they'll be stuck in mediocrity. I just don't think it's a valid solution to trying to fix the tanking problem in the NBA to me. There are other ways to go about it, but I think relegation is way too complicated, does not make sense, and logistically would absolutely never work. This next take comes from Freak, who says that J-Dub, aka Jalen Williams, has the highest potential in the 2022 draft class, and I'm not even a Thunder fan. Now, I am a Thunder fan, so I could be very biased here and agree with you, but I'm not going to agree because I think there's someone else on the Thunder that takes that title of having the highest potential, and I think that's Chet Holmgren. People are forgetting how good he's going to be leading into the draft, even before I knew the Thunder were going to be able to select him after the lottery and they got the number 2 overall pick. Chet was my guy. I thought that Chet would be the best player in the draft class. The defensive upside, I think he can be a defensive player of the year level guy. High level offensive upside too, incredibly fluid for a 7-footer. I think he's probably got the highest potential in my, somewhat biased opinion still, but I also think Paolo is up there. Of course, they were the top 2 picks, so I think the two of them are kind of at the top, but I do believe J-Dub is right there in the conversation at the 3rd spot. I mean, what he's already doing as a rookie is ridiculous. The improvement that he's had in just his first season, averaging over 20 points per game over the last month, playing amazing defense, leading the NBA in steals since January 1st, while grabbing a bunch of boards, diming other teams up. Just super consistent. The fluidity to his game, the efficiency is ridiculous. He's got crazy sky-high potential, and in my biased opinion, should be right there with Paolo to win Rookie of the Year. But in terms of highest potential, I do think I slightly still lean Chet and Paolo, but J-Dub is certainly in that conversation. His next take comes from Ray, who says that the Cavs will represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. Now, I kind of already touched on this a bit earlier when we talked about Jake's Nets prediction. I think that right now there are 3 teams that are kind of in a tier of their own in the East. I think it's the Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Philadelphia 76ers in no order. I would be shocked if one of those 3 teams wasn't representing the East when the finals do roll around. I think the Cavs are really good. I'm higher on them than most people, but I just don't think they have the star power, the experience, or just the overall depth to compete with any of those squads. Donovan Mitchell has been amazing in the playoffs every time he's been there, so I do think they'll probably make it out of the first round, but I think any of those matchups are really, really difficult for Cleveland. I think they can give them one hell of a series, but I think it's just a bit too early for a very young Cavaliers team. I do believe by the time that this Donovan Mitchell era in Cleveland ends, whenever that is, they're going to have a ridiculous amount of playoff success, because I do believe Mobley is an all-star and maybe even superstar in the making if he reaches the potential I think he has. They've already got a couple more in Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Jared Allen was even an all-star last season too. So they're so well set up for the future. All those guys are young. They've got assets to go ahead and make moves in the future, but I think right now it's just a bit too early. Following up this take, we have CJ, who says that Joel Embiid should be the undisputed MVP. Undisputed is a bit too far. I will say at the moment, and this is something that changes from day to day, so by the time you're watching this video, maybe in a few days, it's changed. I think Joel Embiid is my pick for MVP right now. I know most betting sites have actually switched him over to be the favorite, which is shocking. It really did seem like Jokic kind of had the award wrapped up about a month ago, but Embiid has had just such a good stretch as the Sixers continue to try and push for that 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, and they're making it a real battle. But undisputed, I think, is a bit too far. Jokic, I still believe, deserves a lot of consideration, as well as Giannis Antetokounmpo, because more people are starting to realize how good he's been. The Bucks are the first team to reach 50 wins in the NBA. They're the top seed in the Eastern Conference right now, obviously, and he's playing amazing basketball. Still one of the most dominant players on both sides of the ball. In my opinion, the best player in the world. And so I don't think you can go wrong between Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. I think either of those 3 guys are an amazing choice, and I really believe that this is going to finish up as the closest MVP race we've seen in a while. There's no chance undisputed is anything even close to mention when we see with the results. but I do think Embiid is currently my favorite. This next take comes from Nick, who says that the Heat need to blow it up, including trading Jimmy Butler. This is going to be the first take that I completely agree with in the entire video, I think. It's time for the Heat to go ahead and move on from this era. I know it's been really fun and it's been pretty successful. They made it to an NBA Finals in 2020. They nearly made it back last season. They were one missed Jimmy Butler shot away from doing so, but they're having major regression so far this season. Jimmy is still really good, but he's continuously been somewhat injury prone. Bam Adebayo is having the best season of his career, but it hasn't mattered. And I mean, Hero's young, he can get better. Same with Bam. Jimmy, like I said, is still really good. But beyond that, there's not much going for them on this roster at the moment. They've got some solid role players, but they're going to have to pay some of them coming up soon. And we saw how that worked with Duncan Robinson, who got a bag and has never been the same player since. They tried to bring in Kyle Lowry to change their fortunes. And like I said, they almost made it to the finals last year, but he keeps getting older. He's regressing. He's making a ton of money. And really, the amount of money that they have wrapped up in this roster to be right now the 6 or 7 seed, it's just not working at the moment. They don't have a lot of really tangible ways to upgrade the roster significantly to make themselves into a championship contender. Maybe a star becomes available and they could package Tyler Hero and whatever assets they have left to try and make a push. But I just don't think they're going to outbid really any team for a star if one does become available. There are just so many other teams that have young players as well as draft picks to outbid them. I think right now this Heat era is coming to an end. I think they can still get a pretty substantial return for Jimmy Butler. They could hold on to Bam Adebayo because he still is young enough to maybe be a piece in a new era. But if you want to trade him, you would get a ton for him as well. I think you could get some assets for Tyler Hero. You could go ahead and tear this thing down and completely start from the beginning. But I don't think Pat Riley is going to be willing to do that. I think he's going to instead try and improve this roster in the offseason, which, you know, if they make some big moves and a couple things break their way, maybe they could make a run. But I just don't see them as a legitimate championship contender anytime soon with how great the Eastern Conference is. So now is probably a better time than ever to go ahead and blow it up in the offseason. And finally, we have a take coming from His Season, who says that if the Lakers clinch the playoffs, they will make the NBA Finals. And we talked about the Western Conference, the parity in it at the moment. I do believe the Lakers could make things tough on like the Nuggets or the Sacramento Kings or the Memphis Grizzlies in a first round matchup. But to be honest, I'm still taking all three of those teams in a series over the Los Angeles Lakers. And when you have to consider the fact that they would have to go through at least 2 of those teams, if not more, they might have to go through the Phoenix Suns, who have Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, and when those guys have played, they've all looked really good. I just think that the Lakers, they're set up well for the future. And I made a whole video talking about the Lakers a couple days ago, so if you want to hear me talk about them a bit more, go check out that video. I think they're set up well now. I think they can be really competitive in the playoffs. I think they're set up for the future very well next season. If they take a little bit of time in the offseason to tweak the roster, keep guys around, maybe they could make a really solid run. Both LeBron James coming off a big injury, not playing in a little bit, other injury concerns on the roster as well, and the fact that this core has only been together since the deadline. I think it's a bit premature to say that they're finals contenders. I don't think they're going to make it there if they even make it out of the first round, but I do think that this Lakers team is pretty good, and any top seed should not sleep on them in a series. That's all I have for y'all today in this episode of Hot Takes. Go ahead and comment down below a hot take that you have in the comments, and I'll try to respond to as many as I can. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my opinions on the hot takes in this video. And with that being said, I appreciate y'all watching. Like I said earlier, please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps the channel out a ton. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.